Following up with a request here, as I actually was trying to get you all's opinion on a different Wilson subject, and this idea obviously took the cake for me, because, it seemed even more relevant considering more recent events. So these aren't in any type of order, but I did save the two most recent egregious unpunished acts for last. And I'm sure there's lots more than just these 7 to talk about, so feel free to list other unpunished actions below from Tom Wilson. And with that, here are 7 times that Tom Wilson should have been suspended, but wasn't. So we all know that the playoffs, and even more specifically the Stanley Cup Finals, can get pretty intense. Therefore, it's not shocking when something controversial happens, but in this case, the surprising part was the fact that the offender wasn't given supplemental discipline for his actions. The hit on Jonathan Marchessault took place in the final frame of play during the opening game of round 4 of the 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs. Marchessault, who was concentrated on making a pass in the neutral zone, was blindsided by Wilson on open ice. As you can see here, the forward shoulder makes direct contact with Marchessault's head. And as you would expect, this incapacitated number 81 briefly before he was able to gather himself moments later. Even though Wilson was assessed a penalty in game, no further discipline was dealt to him for his reckless antics. In a post-game interview though, Marchessault, however, was hopeful that the league would follow through, saying, quote, "I think the league's going to take care of it," end quote. But, as has been the trend here, nothing was really done about it. Right around the time when Wilson was starting to earn his antagonist reputation in 2016, number 43 decided to come to the competition in full Predator mode. As Devils defenseman John Moore was trying to retrieve the puck in his own end, Wilson, who decided to make a beeline for Moore, could be shown putting his shoulder directly into Moore's numbers, causing his head to collide with the boards. Moore, who laid for several minutes unable to get up, had to be wheeled off the ice on a stretcher. After being rushed to the hospital and recovering from a concussion, Moore was able to return to the Devils lineup over a month after the injury occurred. The play went uncalled, and no supplemental discipline was dealt to Wilson in result. One of several questionable hits on Washington's rival team took place during the postseason of 2016, but thankfully, this one anyways, didn't result in injury. Kind of a similar looking play to the Marchessault one, well, for the fact that it took place in the neutral zone and Wilson caught his opponent right after he had made a pass before he really had any time to react. But instead of going for his head though this time, Wilson decided to mix it up and collided knee-on-knee with Sherry before casually skating to the bench after his shift was over. Fortunately for the Penguins and for Sherry, though, he was able to remain in game and no penalty was called on the play and no supplemental discipline was given to Wilson. Classic boarding incident here. Almost mirrored the Moore hit, except obviously the on-ice location and angle of the hit itself. As Campbell was focused on moving the puck up ice, Wilson, who saw his opportunity, decided to drive his shoulder into Campbell's numbers again, causing his opponent's head to collide with the boards in hazardous fashion. While Wilson did actually do some real time for this one, as he received a 5-minute major and a game misconduct for boarding, the Department of Player Safety decided that the play wasn't suspension worthy. Thankfully for Campbell, who did leave the game, was able to return for the next contest. One of the more brutal hits on this list is the one that Wilson decided to throw on Flyers forward at the time, Brayden Schenn. As Schenn, during the second period of play, was trying to move the puck up ice, Wilson had already decided to completely go out of his way in a predatory-like nature while accelerating in preparation. Number 10, who wasn't really in a position to defend himself, just a few feet away from the boards, couldn't exactly avoid his opponent, who was in full flight coming towards him. Schenn could be shown going face first into the boards following the collision. The hit's effects on Schenn were evident right away, as he struggled to gain his composure and even laid motionless at times as he was tended to by the team staff. Despite the in-game backlash that Wilson received in the form of a 5-minute major and an ejection, the league, per Brendan Sheahan, deemed the hit non-suspension worthy, saying that, quote, "Despite the fact that he comes a long distance, he skates most of the distance in a forechecking fashion," end quote. and one of two of the most recent incidents to transpire due to Wilson's negligence was the net front confrontation against Pavel Buchnevich. The scrum seemed to ensue due to the fact that Buchnevich nudged the Capitals goalie while in the middle of a power play. Wilson, who saw the contact, decided to go completely off the rails, and instead of dropping the gloves with his opponent, he decided to wait until he was in a very vulnerable position, like, real men do, obviously, and proceeded to jab him in the head while holding his stick under the forward's neck. This caused Wilson to get the small amount of discipline that he received from his actions during the whole game, as he was fined $5,000. And for the grand finale, and the events that sparked a large amount of outrage took place directly after part 1 of Wilson's meltdown, as Artemi Panarin, who saw another one of his teammates being hit, who was unable to protect himself, decided to try and take up for him. But unfortunately for Panarin, it probably came to be a move that he would largely regret. Directly after number 10 jumped Wilson from behind, Wilson, after knocking his opponent's helmet off, decided to body slam the helmetless Panarin to the ice and proceeded to repeatedly punch him and ragdoll the Russian all over the ice. After officials finally broke up the play, Wilson wasn't done after injuring Panarin as he proceeded to taunt the breadman and his team while flexing happily from the penalty box. Outside of his ejection from the contest, Wilson faced no discipline for an incident that could have had much more detrimental effects on his victim.